Decontamination. Some call it an enjoyable part of the process, others call it a necessary evil. AUTOBRITE DIRECT simply call it Step 3. Hello everybody and welcome to the Sparkling Autos YouTube channel. Continuing with the AUTOBRITE DIRECT 6 steps of detailing kit, I'm moving on to step 3 this week, decontamination, the first of which is their tar and glue remover, Just the Tonic. And as expected, the directions are no different from most other tar and glue removers. Simply spray liberally, allow it to dwell for a few minutes but don't allow it to dry, and then remove with a clean microfiber towel. More on that when we get to that stage. So I'll briefly show the whole car here to give you some relevance as to the size of these particular tar deposits. And as you can see, there's a mix of small and medium deposits, but no particularly large ones. Then again, this car is decontaminated fairly regularly, so I wouldn't have expected there to be too many. So trying to get as much coverage as I can from a sample bottle, which in itself is an issue throughout this video, as it's particularly impossible to spray liberally from a 100ml sample bottle which sprays less than 1ml per pump of the trigger, and a spray pattern that would barely cover a stamp. But that being said, you can see there's already an instant reaction with the tar deposits and they've started to melt away. But I'll speed the footage up here while I've gone around to spray the rest of the car, as melting tar isn't the most exhilarating thing to watch, nor is me struggling to coat the entire lower half of the car with the tar remover from the same sample bottle. So now that the 3 minutes have passed, it's time to get the microfiber cloth ready, and my only bit of advice here would be that although it's obviously important that it's a clean cloth, I certainly wouldn't be recommended using one of your best cloths for this job. Tar and glue removers contain solvents designed to break down varieties of glues, adhesives and obviously road tar. So personally I tend to use older cheaper cloths for this and just dispose of them once they've been used. At this stage then, my method would be to lightly spray the area of the cloth I'm about to use with some of the product, and this just prevents it absorbing what's on the panel as soon as you make contact. Then just lightly wipe over the panels, bearing in mind that on some of the heavier deposits, a bit of mechanical assistance, otherwise known as elbow grease, might be required. So as you can see with this one, a light wipe has removed most of it, however there's still a number of smaller deposits which haven't shifted and don't seem to be, even with a bit more effort on my part. The question is, how much of that's down to the product and how much of it's down to the sample bottle and the way it dispenses it? Well, more on that later, but for now, let's get stuck into the fallout remover. Onto our active fallout remover now, and we have the very aptly named Purple Rain. And once again, the instructions couldn't be simpler. Ensure the panels are cool and clean, spray the product liberally, allow it to dwell, use a cloth or brush if necessary, and then rinse off thoroughly. And of course, don't allow it to dry into the panels. So off camera, I've used a bit of traffic film remover, let it soak onto the panel and then rinsed it off, just purely to remove any residue from the previous product. Dried the lower panels off with a clean dry cloth, and I'm now ready to start applying the fallout remover to the bodywork. So as you will see here, I had exactly the same issue with the fallout remover as I had with the tar and glue remover, in that not so much the products themselves, but the sample bottles just are not ideal for this type of thing. Particularly when the products do have a higher viscosity, the likes of Purple Rain here, or if you remember when I did step 1 in the series, the 2 wheel cleaners, Bright Gel, I also had the same problem with that. It was a great product, but just from the sample bottle, I couldn't dispense enough of it onto the wheel. And if you look carefully at the door, you can almost see like a grid pattern. There's plenty of areas there where there's just no coverage at all, and when the product's as thick as this, it's not going to run into those areas. So I definitely need to bear that in mind when it comes to looking at the results at the end of this. But listen, I don't want this to be too much about sample bottles. That's not what I'm reviewing here. I'm reviewing the chemical products themselves. So we'll speed the footage up whilst I'm allowed it to dwell for a few minutes, and then we'll take a closer look and see what sort of reaction we've had. Taking a closer look then, and despite the fact that it didn't get as much product onto the door as I would have liked, there is still some reaction, although perhaps not as much as you would expect. However, if I take a closer look at the back end of the car, it tells a very different story. So just to put things into perspective, this Mini doesn't cover a lot of miles, perhaps only 200 to 300 a month. And the fact that it does get a chemical decon fairly regularly, I wouldn't have expected anywhere near this much reaction. But looking at the back end of this car reminded me of being out in the countryside on a clear night, and the more you look at the stars, the more appear, and that's exactly what seemed to be happening here. And at this point I actually started to question what sort of reaction would I have got at the back end here if I was using this through a proper spray bottle. And looking at the driver's door, you can see there is a fair bit of reaction. So what I'm going to do is wipe that down with a clean microfiber, give it a rinse down, and then apply some more product, and just see if there is any more reaction, particularly in those areas that didn't get hit the first time round. Don't worry though, I'm not going to spend another 3 or 4 minutes going through the same thing again, so we'll speed the footage up, we'll go through this very quickly, and just see what the reaction's like second time round. Also, just like I did with the tar and glue removing stage off camera, I'm going to go over with a bit of TFR, allow it to penetrate for a few minutes, and then thoroughly rinse it off. I'll then dry the panel off with another clean dry towel, meaning that none of the previous stages are going to affect the next part of the process. So like I said, I'm going to speed through this as quickly as I can, and you can see I've tried to get better coverage with this, but it is just impossible to get full coverage with one of these sample bottles. And now our 3 minutes are up, it's time to go in for a closer look, preferably without dropping the camera. And there we are then, this does just highlight the need for a good coverage the first time round. All the areas where the product didn't land the first time, you can see there is more reaction again. However, I think it's also clear to see that there's nowhere near as much reaction as there was the first time, so definitely the product has done something, and I would love to see how well it performs from a full size bottle. But now that we've seen how it has reacted, we'll get the panel rinsed off for the final time, and then of course answers that all important question. So just the tonic first of all, and although it didn't perform superbly, when you actually look at how little product I used, probably about 20 ml to coat the entire car, it did a fairly reasonable job all things considered, so we'll put that one on the shelf for now, although I would like to see what it's like from a full size bottle. And as for Purple Rain, well I think the results kind of spoke for themselves in the end. The only real issue I had with this one was once again the bottle itself, but the actual product performed well and it's earned its place on the shelf. And that brings us to the end of this video. As always, I've tried to be as honest as possible in this review, and I hope you've been able to take some useful information out of it. If you've made it this far, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Take care.